Right, I'm going to do a review on this. Now this is a bit unusual because for someone that normally reviews high-end Steyrs that I own and my Walther Master Pro and the Air Arms Pro Sport, all top-end, really expensive fancy rifles. This is the Artemis, or the SMK Pr 900W Victory. And this is realistically, well in fact I think it is, the cheapest pre-charged pneumatic rifle that money can currently buy in the UK. You can get these for under 200 quid. I think this one cost me 180 quid. Didn't have a box with it because it's an ex-display one. It was 180 quid, I think, 175 quid actually. So, an absolute steal, really. Now, you might be thinking, why on earth would someone that's got a Steyr Hunting 5 Auto and a Steyr Pro X and a Walther LGV and an Air Arms Pro Sport want one of these things? Well, the reason's simple. I've recently acquired some permission where the rabbits really can only be shot at night. It's quite rough, it's full of barbed wire, rusty old gates. There's also a hell of a long walk involved in actually getting there. We're talking a couple of miles to get to it. So I bought a second-hand Yukon night sight off eBay, good old eBay, and I'm going to fit that up with an LED LED ray infrared lamp, because obviously the inbuilt lamps on these night sights are never very good. So I was thinking to myself, by the time I've stuck that in a rifle with the lamp as well, it's going to be, they're always bulky, these night sights. So I thought I'm going to end up with a bulky and very heavy setup that I don't fancy lugging miles and miles, and also don't fancy risking it over what is really quite bad, rugged, rough. It's basically a bit of a dumping ground, really, with barbed wire everywhere and fences and all sorts. So I thought I'll get something nice and cheap, and if I scratch the stock or whatever, or get scratched on the barrel or anything, I won't be particularly bothered. And also wanted something that weighed next to nothing. And this rifle weighs, and this is unbelievable, it weighs 2.27 kilos. I've had air pistols that weigh more than that. 2.27 kilos. That is next to nothing. So even with the heaviest night sight in the world on it, and all the extra lamps and all the rest of it, it's still going to come out as a fairly light PCP air rifle. Ideal for carrying miles and miles. And also, because it costs 170 quid, I'm not going to be crying any tears if it gets scratched or a bit battered. Now, don't think that just because it's so cheap either, that it's an absolute pile of rubbish, because it isn't. There's not a single plastic component on this rifle. I thought this bit here, initially looking at it in the rack, was going to be plastic. I also thought that this trigger guard was going to be some sort of ABS plastic, but they're not. That's metal, and that's metal, and that is actually a moderator, an inbuilt moderator. It's not the best in the world, but it deadens down the crack of the rifle to a reasonable level. Everything on this rifle is metal. There is no plastic at all, none. And that is something you can't say for guns that cost 3 times, 4 times as much as this rifle. Everything's metal, everything. Trigger guard, trigger, little moderator thing at the end, everything. Also got a proper wood stock, decent cheek piece. It's not ambidextrous, but you could use it ambidextrous, but just without the cheek piece. So it's got decent comb on it. Rubber butt pad. It's quite a solid rubber butt pad, but rubber butt pad. Decent cheek piece. Bit of checkering on the pistol grips, quite nicely executed. It's not especially deep or grippy, but it's quite nicely executed nonetheless. Checkering on the forehand, again, it's not particularly grippy or deep, but looks nice. And unlike some more expensive air rifles, the pressure gauge is mounted underneath, recessed into the stock. Crossbolt safety on it, blindingly simple. A little bit noisy, but works. Trigger on it came as a big surprise. I was expecting for the money the trigger to be awful. To be honest though, the trigger's actually quite good. It's quite light, it's quite predictable, and I rather like it. Bolt action. The bolt requires a fair old pull to get it to go back, but it's smooth, slots forward smoothly. Seems to work really nicely actually. I've got a single shot tray with it. The only part of this rifle I don't like is the magazine that comes with it is awful. It's a plastic, and the magazine is plastic and it doesn't look. It's one of those ones with the sliding front thing where you flick it round. I would show it you, but I put it away because I can't be bothered with it. 7 shots in 2.2. I think it's 10 in 177, but it's plastic. It looks flimsy and it doesn't look like it'll last. And to be honest, for what I want, single shot mode is ideal for me. It's got a semi-floated barrel. It's kind of secured here, but I'm not sure whether it's actually fixed in particularly tightly into this mount here. Like I say, it's got a moderator already on it that works reasonably well. A set of open sights, and it's got a small run for dovetails. The fit and finish, unbelievably for the money, it's really good. The block, nicely machined, no rough edges. Anodizing's nice and even, there's no manky bits or rough finishing. The wood to metal fit is superb. You know, there's no gaps, nothing. The stock's really nicely finished actually. It's very, very basic, but it's nicely finished. There's no rough bits on it. It's got like a sort of matte walnut stain to it. I'm assuming the stock is beech. It looks beech. It's got a nice attractive matte walnut finish to it. The barrel and the air cylinder have got a sort of parkerized finish to them. And all in all, it's a cracking little thing. It's astonishing really what you get for your money. It reminds me in some ways of the sort of 2.2 centerfires that most farmers seem to have knocking about. Just like a gun designed literally to just shoot the bullet and that's it. You know, no frills, no fancy, nothing really. It just shoots and that's the end of it. The only downside to it as well is it has got a tiny air cylinder. I mean, my thumb's not particularly big, but look how incredibly slender that air cylinder is. It's quite long, but it's tiny little thing. Now I haven't done any shots to empty yet, but I reckon you're looking at about 50 shots before the power fades off on this. Now to some people that's going to be a problem. If you haven't got your own stirrup pump or air cylinder, it means that you're going to be going backwards and forwards to wherever you charge your gun, be it a gun shop or a range, quite often with this rifle. If you've got your own pump, you've got your own cylinder, 50 shots is not a problem. I mean, realistically speaking, how often does someone who's using this gun for hunting, and let's be honest, it's not a target gun, it's a hunting gun, it's a rough and tumble hunting gun. So how many times do people go out hunting and fire 50 shots? They just don't. Even if you get a 50% hit rate, and if you don't get a 50% hit rate, there's something seriously wrong with your shooting. 25 rabbits is a hell of a lot of rabbits to carry. It's a hell of a lot of rabbits to find, let alone shoot and kill and carry. So 50 shots is ample if you've got your own charging gear. If you haven't, fair enough, it's going to be a pain in the bum, because you're going to be going backwards and forwards to the shop or the range all the time to recharge. But if you've got your own charging gear, 50 shots is no big deal. Like I said, this gun is incredibly light. I mean, it's so light. It's just ridiculously light. It's also incredibly compact. It's tiny. It's a tiny, tiny little thing. It really is. It's a dinky little gun. Look at that, you know. It's tiny. Tiny, tiny, tiny thing. quick look at the instruction manual, and barrel length is 480mm. The rifle is only 950mm long, so it's less than a metre in overall length. Power, again, really surprising. Once I'd found a pellet it liked, accuracy wise, and given the premium power as well, this little tiny rifle here produced 11.8 foot-pounds. 11.8, that's more than my Daystate Red Wolf and more than my Daystate Renegade were generating in 2.2. 11.8, and the consistency was astonishing. I was getting less than 3 feet per second across a 10-shot string. Each shot varied less than 3 feet per second from the previous shot, and overall it gave us 7 feet across a 10-shot string. Between the top highest and the lowest, it was only a 7 feet per second difference for a gun that cost under 200 quid. I think it's regulated to get that sort of performance. I'm not sure, but I think it probably is. So there you go. The little Smk Pr 900W. A fantastic little gun. Accuracy wise, yes, it's no Steyr. You're not going to be printing cloverleaf or one hole groups at 30 and 40 yards. But I've shot it out to, even with open sights, 20 yards. It produces perfectly acceptable hunting range groups, and that's with open sights. And my own sort of mid-50s eyesight as well, which isn't the best for open sights. So I'm imagining that once I've got a tele sight on it, or the night sight which is going on this thing, this is going to be perfectly capable of throwing decent groups out to 35, 40 yards. Perfectly acceptable hunting groups. And to be honest, I'm only looking, because of where I'm intending to use this for, I would imagine that 35 yards is going to be about the furthest that it's going to be called into use. But I have no doubt it will throw groups suitable for hunting out to 40. So there you go. A real shocker. A tiny, dinky, miniaturised hunting rifle, pre-charged pneumatic, brand spanking new, under 200 quid, that's full power, and I mean full power, right up there. Pretty well made, or seems to be. Fit and finish on it's damn good. And dead simple. Perfectly acceptable trigger, perfectly acceptable bolt mechanism. Nice and quiet, or reasonably quiet with that moderator on the front. I have no doubt if you could find a decent moderator to fit it, be even quieter still. But that one does an adequate job of knocking down the noise. And for 200 quid, it's just mad. It's crazy what you get for 200 quid. It's a cracking little thing. You know, I mean, you wouldn't use it for target shooting, and there's possibly not a huge amount of pride of ownership in owning one, because it's not the most lavish or exotic rifle in the world. But if all you want is to go out and shoot some rats, pigeons, or rabbits, without lugging half a ton of rifle with you, as quietly and as efficiently as possible, and you've got your own charging unit, be it a pump or your own air cylinder, have a look at one of these. I think you'll be pleasantly surprised. The other thing that's great about these Chinese-made rifles, and I think this is made by a company called Snow Peak in China, is the incredible spares that come with it. It has a spares packet with it that not only has a spare trigger spring, it's also got a spare spring for the safety catch, I think it's for anyway. It comes with seals for everything, so a full set of replaceable seals. It comes with the fairly rubbish multi-shot magazine. It comes with 2 single-shot trays, and it comes with the necessary push-fill bayonet type charger that you need to slot in the end there. But every seal, a full packet of seals, every seal that's needed to do a full service of this rifle, to replace every seal on the gun, every single one, is included in the bag. Crazy. For 200 quid. It's mad. And it's not that badly finished. You know, when you look at it, it's quite a nice little rifle. So there you go.